One of the very worst mistakes I ever made was confusing profit and cash when I had my vending company about 40 years ago. Yes, I know you're thinking that profits and cash are the same thing. Well, unfortunately, it's not true. If you don't know what the difference is, then you could have a similar problem as the one I had, and that is completely running out of cash while you're profitable. And I'm going to bet, in fact, I'm going to be sure, it's not even bet, that this is something you would rather to avoid. And yes, that's today the topic of today's video. Hi, I'm Josh Patrick. I'm the founder of the Sustainable Business, Cracking the Cash Flow Code, and a few zillion other programs. I'm also the author of Sustainable, a fable about creating a personally and economically sustainable business. You know, there's one thing you do need to know, and that is profits are not cash, and cash is not profits. So in today's video, we're going to go talk about 7 things you need to know about cash that might have little or nothing to do with profits. But first, I want to tell you my story about running out of cash. You know, I got into my first business when I was 24 years old, our first full-time business. You know, in high school, I had the part-time stuff, and in middle school, I had my candy stand, which lots of kids have. But my first business started when I was 24 years old, real business. And for the first 3 years in business, boy, life was good. I had great success. I had great profits. I thought I was master of the universe. Now, the problem is when you're 24 years old and you have a lot of success when you first go into business, you actually think it's because, or at least I actually thought, it was because I had this great, incredible, innate business skill. Well, the truth is, I didn't. I was just lucky. In fact, I could barely read a profit and loss statement. I sort of knew how to look at a balance sheet, but I didn't even know that a cash flow statement existed, much less how to read it. So here's what I was doing. During that first 3 years, our business was growing like crazy. We were growing 20 to 30% a year. We were spending about $500,000 per year on new vending machines. Now, my profits were great. I thought life was good. And then the phone started to ring. One supplier called, and then another supplier called, and then another supplier called, and they all wanted to know why we were 60 to 90 days out with them and they weren't getting paid. Well, I went to my controller and he just kind of shrugged his shoulders. Well, it turns out my controller was actually embezzling. So that's a different story altogether. But the truth was we were spending $500,000 per year on our vending machines, and that $500,000 never showed up in our profit and loss statement until the end of the year when our accountants came in and adjusted our depreciation. So life looked good to me. It looked like we were making 5 or 6% a year, which at that time was several $100,000. And I said, boy, we're really doing well. But the truth was, profits were good. Our cash stunk. And because our vending machine purchases didn't show up in the profit and loss statement, I had this false sense that we were doing a whole lot better than we were doing. So I don't want you to do what I did. I don't want you to be a financial nincompoop when it comes to how to speak the language of business, which is finance. And the finance you need to know is how to read your profit and loss statement, how to read your balance sheet, and most importantly, how to read your cash flow statement. Now, I'm going to tell you, the first time you look at your cash flow statement, there's a really good chance, a really good chance, you're going to be really confused. In fact, you might look at it and say, I don't get how this thing is put together, put it in a drawer, and never look at it again. I don't want you to do that. Take the time, and it's not going to take that much time, maybe a half an hour, maybe an hour, to have your accountant or your bookkeeper or so anybody who understands how to read a cash flow statement to explain to you where the numbers come from. It really isn't that complicated. If I can learn it, I know that you can learn it also. So first thing I want you to do is I want you to learn how to read a cash flow statement. I want you to understand your job is not really to create profits, although without profits, you'll eventually run out of cash. Your job is to create cash. And here's why. Private businesses run on cash. Public businesses run on profits, or actually profits are more important than cash. All businesses run on cash. But the truth is, without cash, you're going to be out of business really quickly, and your big deal is creating enough cash in your business. If you own a public company, you're worried about what the market thinks about you, and that's all based on profits. So I have a question for you. One of the reasons I see that people, especially in service businesses, are not doing as well as they should is because they're not pricing their products properly. Are you pricing your products properly? You know, you don't have 2,000 hours a year to sell of your time. At best, you have 1,000, maybe 1,100, and if you're really efficient, maybe 1,200 hours. So if you think you have 2,000 hours you're selling, and you're pricing based on those 2,000 hours, you're already underpriced by about 50%. Second question I want you to answer. Are you creating enough sales in your company? You know, if you're not getting enough business coming in the door, that needs to be 100% of your focus. Without enough sales coming in the door, your business is going to exist. That's cash. Now, you can have numbers put together which are not going to be in your profit and loss statement, not be in your balance sheet, and not even in your cash flow statement, which are predictive about how much you're going to have in sales coming in. And that's just very simply is, are you and your salespeople making enough calls and having enough sales conversations that will bring in enough cash to keep your business running? Here's another thing that I see happen all the time. Receivables do not show up in your profit and loss statement. So let's say I have $100,000 in receivables in my company, and I grow my company by 100%. That means I'm likely to have $200,000 in receivables now. I've just used $100,000 of my cash to lend to people who I'm doing business with, otherwise known as receivables. If you don't know what your receivables are and how your receivables are growing and manage your receivables, I can almost guarantee you that at some point you're going to run out of cash. So let's talk about inventory for a second. You know, this was a big thing in my vending company is that we at one point had over 200 SKUs, which are different items that we put in our candy and snack machines. Over the years, we've knocked that down and knocked that down and knocked that down. We got it down to 25. Well, I can tell you that when we went from 200 items in our warehouse to 25 items in our warehouse, we got back several $100,000 in cash and excess inventory that we were never managing. And by the way, when that inventory came back into the company, yes, it showed up on our cash flow statement. It did not show up on our profit and loss statement. So if my inventory was growing and not shrinking, I would have had a cash problem because I would have thought, oh, my profits are great, life is good, I don't have to worry about this. But in fact, my cash would have been used. And finally, realize that capital expenditures don't show up in your profit and loss statement. That was my problem when I first got into business. I kept buying lots and lots and lots of vending machines, which cost a lot of money, never showed up in my profit and loss statement. I was profitable. I thought life was good. And as I told you earlier, the phone started to ring. People wanted to get their money, wanted to get paid. And I didn't realize I was going to have that problem until it was almost too late. So I want you to have a program in place for monitoring your cash. And I want you to do this on a weekly basis. I want you to have a dashboard that shows what your cash position is, how much new sales you got coming in, how many sales calls you and your staff are making, what's the size of the proposals you're putting out, how much of those proposals are being accepted and becoming business. Those are all things that you can do to monitor, to have an early warning system in place. So if you know you're going to run out of cash or you're going to have a cash flow crunch, you can do something about it. So just want to let you know that what we just talked about is just the first step in managing your cash. But it's the most important step because it's the first things you do. Once you take that first step, you're going to start learning about all the things that you need to do to make sure you have enough cash in your business. And the truth is, cash is king. In fact, one of my favorite little funny sayings I have is, happiness is positive cash flow. So I want you to be happy, and I want you to have positive cash flow. So why don't you leave a comment below, and while you're at it, download our infographic that shows you the success path and how to create excess cash in your business. So this is Josh Patrick. Thanks a lot for stopping by. I hope to see you back here really soon.